Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Danielle. And for those that are new here, welcome. On this channel, we talk about real conversations, we talk about growth, and we talk about how to navigate life in our 20s, right? Because honestly, nobody really prepares us for how our life should be in our 20s. There is no blueprint, there is no wrong or right way to live in your 20s. And right now, we're in the middle of a series called Since We're Being Real, because I feel like a lot of us spend time not saying the things we need to say out loud, right? I feel like a lot of us suffer in silence. And so this is what we're here to do. We're here to talk about the messy middles and how to grow through them. Now, today's video will be a little bit personal for me because it is everything that I have learned about love in my 20s. I am going to talk to you guys about how I grew from them, but also how I learned through those experiences. So, if this is something that you're currently dealing with, then let's get started. So for this first part, I'm going well before my 20s, well before college, and I'm going back to the love that set my standard. So if anybody knows, it will be my first love all the way back, right? I think that sets the foundation for pretty much how I wanted to be treated when I got older. And what I realized is when you're young, love feels simple. It is so exciting, it's pure. You're not overthinking everything, it's not overly complicated, and you guys are just living in the moment. And I feel like that relationship really taught me what genuine care looks like. When I go back to, man, I don't even know how old I was. I was very young. I'm pretty sure I remember it was middle school, but it was just fun. It was very exciting just waking up, going to school, knowing you're going to see this person. And that relationship showed me kindness, protection, consistency, and just well around, just 10 out of 10. And it wasn't that I didn't know what love looked like. I was just a little bit more hard headed. And I wanted my love to look different than at that time my gross parents' lovey dovey love, right? And even though life took me and my first love in different directions, I always appreciate that relationship because it showed me something really important early on. And it showed me that love shouldn't feel confusing, love shouldn't make you question your worth. And that became my standard, right? That became my foundation for all future relationships. And little old middle school me did not know that. But life has a way of testing the standards you set for yourself just to see how far you'll go off the deep end. So I think that that's something to really think about when you guys think about first loves, right? Everybody think about their first love where you had it early or later on in life, and they see it as this wonderful unicorn type person. But I really think ultimately that first love is always set the foundation for how you want to be treated in the end. Now, I can't speak for everybody. If you had a really bad first love and you know goodness well you should not go back, please do not do it. Okay. We only want positive love over here. So of course, growing up, I had boyfriends. Well, I don't really think they were serious enough to talk about those. But I think my real serious relationship started when I got to college. So here we go. This person I will say this person is the one that changed me a lot because it was when I first got to college, fresh out of high school, finding my independence. And I met somebody when I got to college through like mutual friends. I won't say things moved fast. It was like a cool, steady pace or whatever. We started talking, spent time together. Eventually, we started dating, right? Cute dates, all the 9 yards. And at that time, I was going through a lot in my life, and of course with my family. I think my parents were heading more towards their divorce around this time, so emotionally I was carrying a lot. But I was just like, man, he's just so kind and so cute. Like we gotta seize the opportunity. And it was weird because even though I was going through so much, his life felt completely different than mine. His was more stable and it was peaceful and it was supportive. And when your life feels chaotic, you're drawn to what feels like peace, right? You want to stick to that because that's kind of your light in a dark tunnel. And it even got to the point where my family situation was getting a little bit too much that we actually broke up very, very early on in our relationship. We broke up because of some family issues that I was having, and he just felt like it was too much for him. Of course, I was very sad, but at the end of the day, I did understand because it wasn't his, his business. It wasn't his family. It wasn't his problem to deal with. But of course, we were young at that time. Maybe I was 18 or 19, I believe, at that time, and it was funny because we broke up for maybe a few hours. I was all upset, and I remember my mom took me to go get my hair done, and I went and I had got some ice cream. We just spent the whole day, and later on in the day, like we talked about it, and we ended up getting back together. So whatever. And then when we got back together, we stayed together for years, and over the time, things started to slowly start changing. And if you've ever been in a long relationship, especially if it's considered your first real one, you know exactly what I mean when I say sometimes relationships don't end suddenly, they slowly start falling apart, right? The effort starts changing, the attention changes, the energy changes, and eventually I started feeling like I wasn't a priority anymore. He felt like I wasn't supporting him in what he wanted to do. So ultimately, those things kind of just kept going back and forth and clashing together. But that is kind of where the shift started, right? And when things start shifting, it's a very painful place to be. So I want to make sure I look at my notes because I don't want to say anything like disrespectful, none of that. But I think the shift is so painful because when you love somebody and you want to believe things can go back to how they were, you overextend yourself and you try harder, you try to communicate more, you start sacrificing your needs and wants more. And I really do feel like the more I tried to hold that relationship together, the more I started putting myself second. But I didn't learn that in the moment. It took me a long time. It took me even out the relationship to realize what I was doing was not healthy. It was not good for either one of us, especially myself, you know. And since we're being real, you guys, there was a lot of us losing ourselves trying to fix something that was already broken. And at some point, at some weird, strange point, there were other people involved in our situations, and that forced me to really face reality that I had been avoiding. And I used to hate it so much, but I had became an option. And I wasn't somebody that was clearly chosen. I wasn't someone that was protected. I was an option. I was either this person or this person. But I'm gonna let you know if I choose you. Like, I'm not gonna go deep into detail about it because I'm well past that now. But yeah, your girl was an option. And I'm like, baby, that would never fly these days. Because what you mean? No. But since we're being real, love should never make you feel like a competition. It should never have you fight for loyalty, should never have you fighting for your self worth. And the moment you feel like you're competing for someone's attention, you have already lost your peace and you already started putting yourself second. So I made one of the hardest decisions and I eventually ended up walking away. It was a lot of going back and forth in that relationship because when you spend so much time with somebody, you don't want to let that go. I have built so many memories with that relationship that it was hard. Like I was like, oh, like I know this is my person. We're gonna get married. We're planning weddings and we're doing this and we're doing that. So when it got to the point where it was no deal, hey, we gotta go. It was a lot of factors around it. I think the last time I spoke to that person, they told me that they were actually talking to some girl that we had met when we went out. And I believe the last time I seen and talked to that person was when they came to my house, they told me and I left them outside. And that was the moment I walked away. I left them outside. I walked back in my house. I closed the door. Usually I would like peep outside and be like, is he still there? No, I don't know. I think at that point I was just over it. And it was just like, this the second situation that's happened. Be happy, be happy. I'm gonna figure it out. I couldn't do that, right? So it's really funny because that relationship actually interlapped with another relationship that I had after that. And I like to call that relationship the repeated lesson. Because what I did in that relationship was I didn't take the time to heal enough. Some would say this relationship, he was a rebound. I don't think so because I didn't take what I had in the first relationship to the second one. But it wasn't that long after when I met the repeated lesson. The connection was real. We met through college. We were both on the same sports team and we talk all the time. Like when I first was introduced to this person, because I'm really trying to keep it vague. So when I first met this person, or when I first was aware of this person, somebody had sent me a picture of this person and said, like, who is this? Whatever, whatever. That person had won their, sports event and it was on our school page. So I told that person, like, hey, this is so and so. That person didn't know that they were on the same team as me. I didn't even know the person existed. And I know a lot of people do not believe me, but I promise you guys, I did not know this man existed. Like, he fell out of thin air. In my defense, he was straight from another country. So, whatever. But that was around the time I was. I'm trying not to go into straight details. It's kind of hard because I want you guys to know. But you know what? Forget it. We're going to do it. So this was around the time I was with the first person. The first person sent the photo. I explained who that person was. And then I was aware of the second person, the repeated lesson, right? So the one that changed me is the first one. The repeated lesson is the second one. Okay. So after that, we of course had this whole team meeting, and that's when he kind of formally introduced himself to everybody on the team. And we're like, okay, that's the repeated lesson. Like, oh, like sweet guy, whatever, whatever. And I don't know, it was just weird. It was a really weird kind of mix with the two, especially since the first one, we were kind of walking out the door with everything. And then basically the second one just, pops up. Just whatever. We'll take it how we may. We take it how we may. So, yeah, at that sporting event, we were there for an entire week. I didn't notice that guy until the photo was sent to me. And I just remember we went, I just remember that we had kind of crossed paths. And it was a really weird encounter because we crossed paths and instead of being like, hey, and bye, it was like we kind of stood in front of each other and looked at each other for, it felt like forever, like 20 minutes. But I feel like we just kind of stared at each other, just eye to eye for a minute without saying anything. And eventually it was like, hey, you good? You okay? And, he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Da, 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 da. But I don't know. Over time, we were just friends. I think we really bonded off of video games. We talked all the time, and it got to the point where there would be late night conversations, falling asleep on the phone. And eventually, with the repeated lesson, I had found out that this person had somebody else in their life that they had been with for a very long time. So at that moment, everything kind of clicked with me that life will repeat the same lesson until you finally learn from it. So I had already experienced what it felt like to be second. I never wanted to do that to another woman or another person. So things went completely different this time. Even though it was not easy, it was a lot of up and down with the repeated lesson because it was a lot. It was a lot. It was, me and him, and then him and this other person, and that other person's gone, and it went back to me and him. And it was me and him for a long time, and the other person came back, and then it was him and that person. And it was just a lot of back and forth for me. And I was like, damn, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why? Why are we doing this? Like, it's not, it wasn't good. We ended up, me and the second person ended up falling off kind of very, very badly. And then we fell off kind of, yeah, it was bad. I'm not gonna lie. We fell off pretty badly. And then after, I want to say maybe a year or two, he came back, apologized for everything. And then, we again went our separate ways. But what I had to learn, and the letting go process is very, very hard. And what I had to learn is that letting go is a process, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It's not perfect. And it happens with a lot of choices. When that person reaches out to you, are you going to respond, right? If that person reaches out to you, how do you feel? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you mad? Have you worked through your emotions? Have you worked through your feelings? And it happens every time you choose to not go back to what hurt you, right? So since we're being real, the last few days are the hardest, right? Then it's the first week. Then it's the first time you go a whole day without thinking about them. And eventually you start choosing your peace more than you miss them. And you realize your life is moving forward and slowly it gets easier, right? Because that first day when you're not talking to anybody and your life is all about that person and it's just completely silent, you're like, what am I supposed to do? Then let alone that whole week, then that month. I think after the first relationship I had in college ended, I don't think I don't think I processed everything. I just know I was very, very mad. I was very angry. And when I got with the second person, I would vocalize like how angry I was at this person because this is what happened, whatever, whatever. I was sharing what happened, how I felt. And for me, I was more confused because it was, oh, the second person's like, oh, I'm gonna treat you how to be treated. That was messed up. Like, you should never be treated that way. And I will say that the first relationship taught me a lot about myself and what I do and do not like about myself and what I will and will not allow in a relationship anymore. I think that one also set a standard kind of like the first love did. And I think with the second relationship I had, he really taught me a lot of self confidence and speaking up for myself. I was very soft spoken, never really wanted to have any conflict, but now I'm just like, hey, yeah, we're not doing that. And this is why we're not doing that. But if you think there's a better way we can do it, let me know. And I do personally feel like with relationships, you do learn things about yourself and you do grow ultimately from them, right? You get little tiny golden nuggets in your life from each relationship that you have. And I will say that one day you wake up and you realize you're not even the same person who wanted to stay with that person, right? I don't think I would ever. No, I won't even say I don't think. I would never get back with my exes because I am not that 18-year-old. I'm not that, 23-year-old, 24-year-old, or whatever. It wouldn't work out. It would not work out. And you have to understand that you're stronger now. Your boundaries are so much stronger. Like, you actually have some real boundaries. You see things differently and you realize you weren't losing them, right? Your life didn't crumble because you lost them. You were just finding yourself. And when you're finding yourself, that is where boundaries start coming in. After each relationship, when you're mad and people get the revenge body, or they start getting a bunch of money and they want to just brag and show that other person, like, this is what you lost out on. You're finding yourself. You're learning, you know, who you really are outside of that person, and you're bettering yourself, whether that is to, show it off to them or to just prove to yourself that you don't need them, whatever the case may be. But when those boundaries come in, it's not about controlling people, right? So a lot of people think when you're done with one relationship and you get in the next one, you're more complicated because, oh, you didn't do this in your last relationship, or why didn't you do this when you were with this person? But it's not about controlling other people. It's about protecting your peace. And they're about deciding what you will and will not accept in this relationship because you already know it didn't work from the last relationship, right? And people will really treat you based off what you allow. So if you allow a cheater, he will continue to cheat. If you allow an abuser, they will continue to abuse. whether that's physically, emotionally, verbally, physically, whatever. And once you start respecting yourself more, like really, really respecting yourself, everything changes and you start to actively see that happening. And so now my current season, this is what brings me to where I am now. And right now I am actually taking breaks from relationships. I think I have been in a relationship most of my 20s and I am just taking a hiatus. Um I don't know, especially where I am now, trying to get this relationship with God where I want it to be and trying to get my career, you know, I will say better. I want my career to be better. And that's not even just money wise. I mean, it's just like the whole aspect. So I'm really just trying to do more self reflecting, self healing, self growing right now. And I want to take myself on cute dates and I want to have more girl dates and I want to just go out and just be a girl and just kind of live my 20s, not doing anything reckless or wild or anything. But for a long time, I was choosing relationships hoping that they would make me feel loved, that I wouldn't be alone, they would make me happy. Because ultimately my goal was to be married by the time I was, 27, I think I said, or 26. Well, I'm 26 and I'll be 27 in September. So obviously that's not happening. So the truth is, I needed to learn how to love myself first. So right now, with me being 26 and learning who I am, and learning what I like and what I don't like and what my boundaries are, I'm enjoying it. It's a very beautiful process because this season is teaching me that I need to love myself properly and I need to take better care of myself with the life that God has given to me. And like I said, I need to continue to grow closer to God. And if you guys have watched my previous videos, I was just recently baptized. I want to say it's been about a month now. And found my new church home. So I like where I'm going. And I truly believe that when the right relationship comes, I will know by the peace that God places in my heart. I won't have to question it. I won't have to compete for it. I won't have to force it. I will just know because God will place that peace in my heart. Okay. He will give me that sign. This is your person. Move forth. And I'll be like, yes, sir. Okay. So if you're watching this right now and you feel like you're constantly putting somebody before yourself, please remember that you deserve love that chooses you. You deserve consistent love. You need clear love, clear consistency, and love without confusion. And don't rush it. I know a lot of us, especially in our 20s, we rush to get married. We have to be married by this. We have to have kids by 30s. There is not a time on it. Okay. Enjoy your 20s. Have fun, explore, travel, meet new people, try new foods, do new things, find a new hobby. There are so many people on this planet. I promise you will find one. Okay. Even when it gets hard, even when you miss that person, even when letting go hurts, make sure you guys choose yourself every single time because you deserve to get closer to the life that you actually want to live. But yeah, y'all, since we're being real, we talked a little bit about my first love, my first college relationship, and my second college relationship, and just where I am right now. So if this is something that you are experiencing, please, please, please make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on your post notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And as always, I will see you all beautiful, beautiful people next week.